Last thing we're going to talk about today is the G7 summit, which started over the weekend and it wraps up today. Now, this year, the summit was hosted by France and the other G7 countries, which include Canada, Germany, Japan, Italy, the UK, the United States, all attended. And the purpose of this summit is for the leaders of these countries to discuss economics, politics, and other global issues. And as you can imagine, a lot of things happened, but here are some of the highlights. One of the big stories to come out of this were remarks President Donald Trump made about trade negotiations with China. And for some background here, the two countries have been in a public trade war for about a year, and this has been escalating throughout the month. Most recently, with Trump raising tariffs on China this last Friday, the reported $250 billion worth of goods seeing a hike from 25% to 30% in October, as well as another $300 billion seeing an increase from 10% to 15% next month, with Trump also encouraging American businesses to find alternatives to China and condemning Chinese President Xi Jinping. But at the summit, he appeared to take a step back from this. He called President Xi a good leader and added he had taken 2 phone calls with Chinese officials, and then adding,
and we're going to start very shortly to negotiate. We'll see what happens, but I think we're going to make a deal.
Also this weekend, the Chinese vice premier made a statement about scaling back the trade war, saying, "We are willing to resolve the issue through consultations and cooperation in a calm attitude and resolutely oppose the escalation of the trade war." But also, regarding this specifically, obviously words can change how the stock market reacts. But as far as what is actually going to happen, I really do think that it is a wait and see what actually happens. On this specific issue, for example, there was a moment where Donald Trump was meeting with Boris Johnson. And during that, reportedly regarding his approach to China, he was asked by a reporter, "Are you having second thoughts about it?" To which the president responded, "Yeah, sure, why not? I have second thoughts about everything." But then later, according to reports, White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham put out a statement saying that Trump's comment had been greatly misinterpreted, and adding his regret is only that he's not raising the tariffs higher. I guess we'll see. Also, another big story that came from the G7 was the appearance of Iran's foreign minister Mohammad Javad Zarif on Sunday, something that appeared to be a last-minute surprise orchestrated by French President Emmanuel Macron, who met with Zarif privately. According to reports, Trump and other world leaders were warned of the visit the night before, but Zarif mainly stayed on the sidelines of this summit, reportedly never meeting with Trump. But all of this coming as Macron has been trying to get Trump to take an easier approach on Iran. Of course, famously, Trump left the Iran nuclear deal back in 2018, and of course, in the headlines, you've seen kind of the escalation of everything that's been stemming from this. Also, during a press conference this morning, Macron and Trump both spoke about Iran, the two agreeing that the country should not have nuclear weapons. Macron also saying that he wants to organize a meeting between the United States and Iran in the next few weeks. And while Trump did not commit to anything, he alluded that it would be possible, saying, "If the circumstances were correct or right, I would certainly agree to that. But in the meantime, they have to be good players." And then one of the stories out of the G7 that a lot of people are talking about is the deal reached regarding the fires in the Amazon. And this reportedly happened during a session on climate, which Trump notably did not attend. Reportedly, he was the only leader from the G7 who did not go, and instead the U.S. was represented by a senior administration member. Still, President Macron, along with the president of Chile, announced that all countries agreed on $20 million in aid for the fires, and saying that they want these funds to be made available immediately and that most would go to planes fighting the fires. Also, an agreement to further protect the forest and begin reforestation efforts was also reached. And for some context here, in case you haven't seen previous shows, reports show that fires in Brazil's Amazon have increased by 84% this year, something that is made even more notable when you consider that the Amazon rainforest accounts for 20% of the world's oxygen supply, with many experts believing that deforestation efforts are the cause of the fires, with many criticizing Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro for both supporting deforestation and not doing enough to stop the fires. Though, on that note, Brazil has now also promised action of its own over the weekend, saying they have 44,000 troops available to help the effort, as well as planes that can dump water on the burning areas of the forest. These fires have also seemingly started a feud connected to the G7. The fires in the Amazon were high on the agenda of several G7 leaders, including Macron. Before the summit started, he had sent out a tweet calling it an international crisis, also suggesting that it be a priority in the discussion. Bolsonaro then tweeted in response, "The French president's suggestion that Amazonian issues be discussed at the G7 without the participation of the countries of the region evokes a misplaced colonialist mindset in the 21st century." He also tweeted about Macron as the G7 announced their plans to give aid to the fire, saying, "We can't accept that a President Macron fires off improper and gratuitous attacks on Amazonia, nor that he hides his intentions behind the idea of an alliance of G7 countries to, quote, save Amazonia, as if we were a colony or no man's land." But at the same time, the president of Chile, who is reportedly an ally to Bolsonaro, said that he understood why the issue deserved international attention, and also claiming that tensions between Macron and Bolsonaro were starting to loosen up. The Amazon is part of the health of the whole planet, and therefore it is reasonable that everybody is concerned about that. We have to find a compromise between those two. That was the problem between Macron and Bolsonaro at the beginning, but it has already been solved because now both the G7 and the Amazon countries, with the collaboration of Chile, are pushing in the same direction. But despite those comments, I don't know if that's true, because reportedly when someone posted a meme comparing Bolsonaro's wife to Macron's wife, Bolsonaro's account responded by saying, "Don't humiliate the guy," which, understandably, many have interpreted as a dig at Macron and his wife. And during the G7, Macron called the remark disrespectful and added, "What can I tell you? It's sad. It's sad for him and for Brazilians. I think that Brazilian women are probably ashamed to agree that their president has done that, and adding, as I have a lot of friendship and respect for the Brazilian people, I hope that they will quickly have a president who is up to the job. But yeah, ultimately that is where we are with this story as of now. It's going to be interesting to see what else comes from this summit, if any remarks change, if people can actually work together. But yeah, like with everything we talk about, of course, I'd love to know your thought.